Oh, you there?
Yep, I'm right here.
Is being conducted in person in the board's conference room at the board's offices on the 16th floor of Tube United Center. Pursuant to section 21-1503 of the Philadelphia Code, electronic recordings of this meeting will be made through Microsoft Teams conference technology by audio recording. The electronic recording will be made available to the public online on the board website without charge within 10 days. Please note that you consent to such recording by attending, participating, or speaking at such meeting. To note for the record, one of our trustees, Paul Reed, will be participating remotely today. Paul, could you please indicate your presence so we can make sure that we can hear you?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
All right, our first order of business is a motion to adopt the rules of order that the board has approved and used for its in-person public meetings that are electronically recorded. The purpose is to help ensure that accurate and complete audio or audiovisual recordings of the meeting occur to comply with our code requirements. A motion to adopt the procedures for today's meeting has been made and seconded. Any discussion on this pending motion? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll. Brian? Aubrey? Marcia? Approved. Geraldine? Approved. Roosevelt?
Approved.
Paul?
I have to abstain.
Okay, we'll adjust the record. And Marcia also abstained. We'll go back to Paul for a vote on the procedures.
Trying to get back in the back.
While we're letting Paul back into the meeting virtually, under.
Approved.
Okay, do we have Paul?
Huh?
Okay.
Come back to you for,
Elizabeth,
Yes.
I see you. Can you see me?
No. As long as we can hear you.
Wait a minute. Look, I took.
Oh, there you are.
You can see me now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, Paul, we're gonna come back to you for, on item 1, which is.
I heard you say something. Did you say something with my name?
Do you approve our procedures for today's meeting?
Yes.
Motion carries.
That's because it seems like
I'm sorry.
it's popping in and out the sound.
Okay. Doesn't improve, we'll give you a call. The motion carries 6-0 with 2 no. Item 2, a motion to approve minutes from our June 1st meeting was made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to. Marcia, approved. Sherilyn, approved. Roosevelt,
Approved.
Paul,
Approved.
Marcia, do you want to be?
Yes. Thank you.
I will let Marcia also to abstain.
Yeah.
Andrea, approved. Carol. Motion carries 6-0 with 2 noted abstentions.
So,
I'll recognize Carol.
yeah, thank you. How is that working? Because I don't think Andre was here either, was it? The control and stuff was here. So it's not, I just want to know.
Charles was at the previous meeting, but I think each member can determine their level, their comfort level.
Okay, I just want to make sure because
Is that fair?
I just want to make sure because
No, I appreciate that.
because partially by staying because the Andre was here, but Over here. Okay, this one's clear. This one-
Yep, no, thank you, Carol, appreciate that. Item 3, motion to approve 123 pension applications and 86 withdrawal applications was made and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll. Brian. Aubrey. Marcia.
Approved.
Sherilyn. Approved. Roosevelt.
Approved.
Paul.
I approve.
Motion carries unanimously. Moves us into section 4A. A motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Katrina Banton was made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go to the roll call. Brian.
I approve.
Aubrey.
Approved.
Marcia.
Deny.
Sherilyn. Deny. Roosevelt.
Approved.
Paul.
I approve.
Carol.
Approved.
The motion carries 5-3. 4B, a motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Audrey Phillips was made and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll. Brian.
I'll stay.
Aubrey.
Deny.
Marcia.
Deny.
Sherilyn. Deny. Roosevelt.
Abstain.
Paul.
I abstain.
Motion fails 0-4 with 4 noted abstentions. 4C, a motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for George Burgess was made and seconded. Any discussion on this item?
I'd like to start real quick, just looking for, give me a second.
All right,
Sorry.
from
This is the case with a lot of the cases on today with this new service or the different service that they're using. They make note, I'm gonna read the language in a second, they make note that the member is permanently disabled and they accredit it to underlying disease. But they say that the injury caused the underlying disease presents. I don't understand how a doctor can say that the injury healed, but the underlying disease did not, and that's why they're no longer able to do their job. If you were a police officer, a trash person, firefighter, you got injured. When the injury causes underlying disease to show up on an MRI, how did the injury heal with the underlying disease? And I'd like to, I will make note of that because this service all through these cases presents that case, and I thoroughly disagree. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Is there any other discussion on this item or C?
Can I read the language? I said I was going to read it. Can I finish that? I'm going to read this here. The injuries sustained, cervical, lumbar strain, were solely due to the performance of the claimant's duties as a police officer. The current issues of degenerative disease are not result of trauma. The claimant is disabled from further performance of his duties as a police officer. This disability is likely permanent. That's the exact language of it. And I don't understand, again, how do you differentiate between the two? Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, we'll move to the roll. Brian.
I approve.
Aubrey.
Deny.
Marcia.
Deny.
Sherilyn. Deny. Roosevelt.
Approve.
Paul.
I approve.
Approved.
Motion carries 5-3. 4D, a motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Navarro Fisher was made and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll on 4D. Brian.
I'll abstain.
Aubrey.
Deny.
Marcia.
Deny.
Sherilyn. Deny. Roosevelt.
Abstain.
Paul.
I abstain.
Motion fails 0-4 with 4 noted abstentions. 4E, a motion to approve the service-connected disability benefits for Sheldon Fitzgerald is made and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll. Brian.
I approve.
Aubrey.
Approve.
Marcia.
Approved.
Sherilyn. Approved. Roosevelt.
Approve.
Paul,
I approve.
carries unanimously. For F, a motion to approve the service connected disability benefits for Scott Gill was made and seconded. Any discussion on 4F? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll. Brian,
I abstain.
Aubrey,
Approve.
Marcia,
Deny.
Carolyn. Deny. Roosevelt,
Approve.
Paul,
I approve.
the vote was 4-3 with one noted abstention, and so as
What was that? Which case? I'm sorry, I'm gonna have the wrong case. Is that 4F?
4F.
4F. I changed to approval.
Motion carries 5-3. 4G, motion to approve service connected disability benefits for Pavel Regiment was made and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, we'll move to the roll. Brian,
I approve.
yes, I'm sorry, Aubrey,
Approved.
Marcia,
Approved.
Sherilyn. Approved. Roosevelt,
Approved.
Paul,
I approve.
the motion carries unanimously. 4H, motion to approve service connected disability benefits for Jessica Ringgold was made and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll. Brian,
I approve.
Aubrey,
Denied.
Marcia,
Deny.
Sherilyn. Deny. Roosevelt,
I approve.
Paul,
I approve.
Approved.
the motion carries 5-3. 4I, a motion to approve the service connected disability benefits for John Spicer was made and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll. Brian,
I approve.
Aubrey,
Approved.
Marcia, Sherilyn. Approved. Roosevelt,
Approved.
Paul,
I approve.
and Carol.
Approved.
The motion carries unanimously. For J, a motion to approve the service connected disability benefits for Albert Drayton was made and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Go to the roll. Brian,
I'll abstain.
Aubrey,
Denied.
Marcia,
Deny.
Sherilyn. Deny. Roosevelt,
Abstain.
Paul,
I abstain.
motion fails 0-4 with 4 noted abstentions. For K, a motion to approve the service connected disability benefits for Rasha and Harlan Heath was made and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Brian,
I abstain.
Aubrey,
Denied.
Marcia,
Deny.
Sherilyn. Deny. Roosevelt,
Abstain.
Paul,
I abstain.
motion fails 0-4 with 4 noted abstentions. For L, a motion to approve the service connected disability benefits for Sasha Lindsay was made and seconded. Any discussion on this item? We'll go to the roll. Brian,
I'll abstain.
Aubrey,
Denied.
Marcia,
Deny.
Sherilyn. Deny. Roosevelt,
Abstain.
Paul,
I'll abstain.
Abstain.
motion fails 0-4 with 4 abstentions. For M, a motion to approve the service connected disability benefits for Marvin Wise was made and seconded. Any discussion? The roll. Brian,
I approve.
Aubrey,
Denied.
Marcia,
Deny.
Sherilyn. Deny. Roosevelt,
Approved.
Paul,
I approve.
Approved.
motion carries 5-3. For N, a motion to approve the service connected disability benefits for William Hill was made and seconded. Any discussion? Go to the roll. Brian,
I approve.
Aubrey,
Abstain.
Marcia,
No.
Sherilyn. Approved. Roosevelt.
Approve.
Paul.
I approve.
This motion carries 6-1 with one recorded abstention. Brings us to section 5A. Motion to approve the application for service-connected death benefits for Aaron Togley is made and seconded. Any discussion of this item? Hearing none, we go to the roll. Brian.
I approve.
Aubrey. Marcia. Approved. Sherilyn. Abstain. Roosevelt.
I approve.
Paul.
I approve.
Motion carries 7-0 with one abstention. That moves up to old business in case 6A. Motion to approve the application for service-connected disability benefits regarding Linda Hetherington was made and seconded. Any discussion? And none, we'll go to the roll. Brian.
I approve.
Aubrey.
Approve.
Marcia. Approved. Sherilyn. Approved. Roosevelt.
Approve.
Paul.
I approve.
Motion carries unanimously. 6B, a motion to approve the application for service-connected disability benefits regarding Kevin Barrington was made and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll. Brian.
I approve.
Aubrey.
Approve.
Marcia.
Deny.
Sherilyn. Deny. Roosevelt.
I approve.
Paul.
I approve.
The motion carries 6-2. 6C, a motion to approve the application for service-connected disability benefits regarding Darnell Simpson was made and seconded. Any discussion on this item? And we'll go to the roll. Brian.
I approve.
Aubrey. Marcia. Sherilyn. Deny. Roosevelt.
I approve.
Paul.
I approve.
Motion carries 7-1. That brings us to new business. Brad's report.
The PAF, just to again remind you, thank the June period. The total amount is approximately $29.4 multiplied to $31.40. And that's for each year of credit service and each year of the retirement. With the exception of the quadros, they're being done individually. We started those already weeks ago, so that'll continue, but they will not be in addition class. They need to give us the first time fixed basis, depending on what the condition of assets are. The education subcommittee, we should have all received an email from Elizabeth with some prospective dates on there concerning Plan 16 training. If you are interested in that, we will close next week at some point. So if you want to reply, you can reply. Not certainly not compelled to attend, but encouraged. We will have Ellen to review the code aspects of Plan 16. We'll have Shabib to talk about the implementation, the practical implementation of Plan 16, and Brad Nice will attend concerning the investment piece of Plan 16. So that, again, we sent out 3 dates in August, 15th, 16th, and 17th, and 3 dates in September, 5th, 6th, and 7th. So, and we get enough replies, we finalize the dates and notify you that. We use a company called PTI for our debt audit. That's just to do an audit for sleeping pensions. We were notified by PPI about the possible breach, information breach. They're investigating further, so I don't want to jump to any conclusions at this point. But we're working with, Jim is working with OIT and PPI to get more information. So we're starting to keep it posted and take whatever steps are necessary once we get more information. So that's all I want to say.
Thanks, Brad. Any other business?
Yes, that's on the comment, on the, educational fees for the place of thing. So, during one of the hearings, me and Brian discovered that it was a kind of different understanding of the way the plan. We thought the plan was being administered, not nobody's fault here, but the understanding the language, so that's why we both asked for the training. Because this keep coming up in some of the hearings, and people don't know how they get there, when they get there, what to do and what's not to do. So we put, buzz plans to continue. I put, they get a 3-year average, and that determines they found the average compensation, but it's my understanding, no. And then Brian put something different, so I think we all should be educated on how the plans administer, since we got to hear case for that. And we make, I hope people will sign up for the training that's going to be.
We'll make sure we cover the definitions of earnings, compensation,
Right.
what's included, overtime, so on.
Right.
Yep. We'll be. Honestly, thanks to the, I presented to our retirees group, the local 22 retirees group, it was like Christmas morning, and when you get old, you become young again, you know, and, they were very excited.
No, you thank us for processing it. We thank yourselves for getting the investment container, and Chris, and staff for getting.
Absolutely. It means a lot, it really does. Thanks.
Good work, CIO.
Right? 738.
Work hard for next year, Chris. Work hard.
No pressure.
All right.
I'm all set. Thank you. That brings us to the litigation summary information.
This is very little change from last month. We still have 6 cases pending before court count, please.
Just so everyone knows, Ryan, you want to introduce yourself?
Sorry, yes.
I'm gonna say that new album. And you stood up. You stood up.
Otherwise, you're Ryan Mulgrew, Assistant City Solicitor for the Law Department. Labor and Employment, I'm sort of Ellen's understudy for the pension case. So, like I said, there are 6 cases still pending. Work continued, but no real updates on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. You might understand next time.
To adjourn has been made seconded, hearing no objections, carries unanimously, will move into the third composition.
How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing okay. How's everybody there?
Okay.
All right, the first
Thank you.
item is a motion to approve our minutes from the June 1st meeting. The motion was made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go to the roll. Brian, Francois,
Sorry.
Wait a minute, you both get ready. Oh, okay. Is this your book? I got this one. Where you get this one? Where you get that? Over there.
I'm gonna go to Marcia.
See, look. Y'all say, what you doing to Marcia today?
Excuse me, I approve. Thank you, Aubrey. Nick? Yeah. Roosevelt,
Approve.
Paul,
I approve.
motion carries 7-0 with 1 note of abstention, and that brings us to the update and activity report.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just a couple of quick updates or announcements before we get on the numbers. We will have a mutual fund recommendation for July meeting. It'll be a recommendation that complemented everything we had in the growth option, either be a dividend or value fund passive option to complement what we added a couple months ago. August meeting will do the Q2 mutual fund performance update. And folks who are serving the education committees, that meeting will be in August. So thank you to everyone for participating. Be a couple of topics discussed, but one will be this engagement program. That should might be such a month's meeting. And that I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So as of May 31st, the ending balance in deferred compensation was $1,703,691,951. It's a very slight change, a decrease of about 271,000 over the month of April. Total participant count is 25,323. That's 118 more participants that have their account balance in the deferred compensation plan. Actively deferred is 19,646, 61 more than the month of April. New enrollments received in the month of May was 108. When we look at a 5-year track record of new enrollments, when you compare it from January to May, 2003 has received over 864 new enrollments. That is phenomenal. It's almost 79% more than last year around this time. And that is clearly due to Brad Nice leadership, as well as the retirement specialists, Christina Gibson, Sean McDonald, and Don Montesiel, our PRC. But their continued commitment to uncover opportunities and attend NEOs. Brad is going to talk more about it in the service activity report. But I just wanted to highlight the great work that the team is doing. Inactive participant is 5,677. That's 57 more than the month of April. Philadelphia Parking Authority, there are 524 participants, 2 more, and we received 3 new enrollments in the month of May. Philadelphia Housing Development Corporation is 41 participants, no new enrollments in the month of May. In the 401A plan at the end of May, the ending balance was $2,307,999.98. That's 941 participants, which is 1 less than the previous month. Call volumes continue to rise. We received 3,780 phone calls, which is about 123 more than the month of April. Online accounts, participants continue to leverage in the setting up their online account. That's where they get all the tools and resources and also view the webinars. 19,000 have set up their web profile, which is 110 more than the month of April, or about 75% that have account balances have set up an online account. Percentage participation is now at 1,800 participants. That's 94 more than the month of April. The city also offers the after-tax contributions, which is the Roth 57. The participation now is 5,784 participants, or 189 more participants since April at 38.8. We want to thank the board trustees and staff for the opportunity to offer the virtual courtyard experience. This was the first time a 3D interactive experience to engage all employees, whether they were enrolled or not. Nationwide sent out 71,000 emails over the 60-day period. That is reaching out to 71,000. 38% actually opened their emails, and about 1,048 visits a unique visit, so unique device visits. We tracked that. And then when we looked at how many actually engaged with all the activities in the courtyard, that was 4,869 unique events that people engaged with at the city. I want also to share that this was, when you compare it nationwide, all throughout, all the plans that offer the courtyard experience, City of Philadelphia ranked number 10 in terms of the usage. So many, many thanks to the board trustees for allowing us to not only, provide the services that we offer and the department's access, but more importantly, also leveraging the digital aspects of engaging your employees. We also, in addition to the emails, we posted web banners so that anybody that was going into their online account could see that they could click on the web banner to engage with the virtual board. So thank you so much. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. If not, I'm going to pass it on to Brad. That's the service activity.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Beaman. Local office staff for the month of May conducted 307 one-on-one consultations over the course of the month. 77 of those resulted in enrollment into the plan with the retirement specialist for the DRC. 24 of those one-on-one consultations were done using the My Interactive Retirement Planning Tool. And for the month of May, we conducted 24 group events / workshops. And there were 445 total attendees at those sessions for the month of May. Thank you.
Any questions for Rachel? Yeah, motion to adjourn to very conference meeting and was properly seconded and hearing no questions. Adjourn. Let me take a 5-minute break before we move into the investment. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I will be right back.
Okay.
Paul?
Yep.
Okay, let's call the investment committee. Yes, for the first item is approval of the June 1st investment. I'm gonna say it's going to be moved probably seconded. And I will, hold on, come on. Approve. Paul?
I approve.
Well, approve. Carol? Martha?
Abstain.
Aubrey? Abstaining. Nick? Approve. Motion carries. It's item 2.
Or, looking at the numbers for, last month, line with the, plan's benchmark, actually slightly better than the benchmark, negative 1.5%. Benchmark of 6. Should have received estimates yesterday, through Tuesday. It's been pretty positive month. Plan up around 3%. Looking at some of the issues that we're keeping an eye on, as that will be affecting the portfolio, I think it continues to be really a mixed bag of messaging. Half of what seems to come out is pretty positive, half of what you're reading seems to be pretty negative, or to affect the market. The market's in a downward way. The Fed chair spoke yesterday. Congress.
So the market.
Yes. Forecasting at least 2 more interest rate hikes before the end of the year. Interestingly, we were talking about this morning, and Brett see this a lot, but one of the regional Fed chairs, I think it was Atlanta, came out and was giving a contrary opinion. They weren't really in agreement with that. Yeah, that's unusual. Sometimes you'll see, someone dissent or a different opinion in the official vote, but they've pretty much been in lockstep. It's a little unusual to see one of the regional heads kind of come out with a contrary opinion. The United Kingdom and Norway also surprised on the upside with rate hikes in the last couple of days, 50 basis points instead of expected, 25. UK actually did that smoothly. Also on the negative side, we continue to see an economic slowdown in China, although they are talking about some stimulus to get things moving again. Real estate and banks, there's still been some contraction in lending. We're still seeing some stress in the commercial real estate market, particularly in office space. Defaults on credit cards, auto loans, et cetera, have risen slightly. They're back to pre-pandemic levels. So that's obviously not a great sign. Manufacturing showing some signs of stress, new orders down, inventories up. But on the positive side, we're seeing, at least this month, the stock market rally being a little bit more broad based than it had been.
Not just this step.
Yeah, prior to this month, we've really seen kind of 7 stocks of the big tech leaders really driving 90% of the rallies. So far this month, the S&P 500 and the Russell 2000 have actually outpaced those 7 stocks. So that would be a bullish sign that the market rally is expanding. Folks who track estimates for the current quarter GDP think it's around 2%. Consumer sentiment up according to the University of Michigan. At the same time, the consumer expectations for inflation have grown. So again, positive side. So again, there's a lot to digest, and a lot of it going in the opposite direction. No significant concerns with managers, no action item recommended. We did receive a few questions about one of the global low volatility managers, Fidelity. Been in the portfolio about 6 or 7 months. And have underperformed both relative to the benchmark as well as their retained fund MFS. Not surprised that there's no actual concerns. Their lack of inclusion or lack of overweight of some of those big names that we're talking about really was hurt them in the short term.
Should that change now that the rally broader? Focus on those 7.
Assuming that continues, yeah, we would expect repayments from them to improve if the market rally continues to be, broader based. And if you look at the stocks that they weren't including, some of the tech stocks, NVIDIA, especially post, NVIDIA had like a huge pop right in the last 30 to 60 days. They didn't buy more after it popped. So yeah, if the market rally continues, expect to see some improvement. Also, next month, we should have the quarterly numbers for Clarendon and UBS. Obviously, the next 3 months, they report quarterly. That will dovetail nicely with the planning with the state. That one can go through. Just to managers, some of the older existing closed-end funds. Talk a little bit more granularly about what sectors we're exposed to in this particular sectors we do. So that'll be part of next month's discussion. I'm going to take questions quick. We may have other comments on specific managers or market commentary. Pass it over.
Yeah, just to kind of wrap up, or dovetail into Chris's comments. Definitely the market, we're still, for lack of a better term, muddling along. A lot of mixed signals, right? So for every positive, you can think about AI, probably a bad example of a positive, but from a market standpoint, rallying significantly. Looks like the creation of a new bubble. So bubbles are interesting things in the market, right? So modeling along, but the big thing here, I think from a macro standpoint, is this is on page 14. It's on under tab 2 after the pink page. It's the US Treasury yield curve. And the big thing to point to here, once again, is the inversion of the yield curve, right? So there's so much distractedness in the market. You have the Fed chairman looking to pause rates, but then saying they're going to raise rates. You have China inflating its economy. So a lot's just happening. But if we go back to what the macro trends are telling us, we had an inverted yield curve. The inverted yield curve is typically a really good predictor for an economic slowdown. So at some point, we are likely to experience a slowdown.
It's been inverted for a while.
It's been inverted for a while. The crazy thing is the inversion is typically the inversion will happen naturally, where the market dynamics will essentially lead to longer term rates being lower than shorter term rates. What we're seeing here is an inverted yield curve that's also being exacerbated by the Fed and its unprecedented rate hikes. And right now, there's just so much noise, right? We've had banks failing at the regional level. As a result of that, the FDIC had to step in. We've seen, for example, as Chris mentioned, credit card delinquencies going up. All these things are happening. The Fed is still raising interest rates, or potentially we have an inverted yield curve, and it looks like politically there's not an appetite for more stimulus if we run into a recessionary environment. So, for lack of a better term, I think the fun will begin when we do see the economy slow down. And I think one of the big things we'll see looks like is a return back to fundamentals. So the Magnificent Seven, the 7 stocks that are doing really well, we'll take NVIDIA as an example of that. I couldn't say NVIDIA, but I'll take that as an example. That's rallying tremendously, but a lot of that is just based off the what ifs and what the company can do. There may be a return back to, let's look at these boring stocks, let's look at actual business lines, actual cash flows, actual companies building things.
But not yet.
Yes, so there may be more of a return to that. There may be more of a flight to quality, but again, with everything going on in the market, we're gonna enter an election cycle. There's gonna be a lot of distractions, but I would say amidst all the distractions, we're still looking at what the macro indicators are telling us. And it's telling us that we still haven't really dealt with the pain that was prolonged as a result of COVID, right? So we were gonna enter a recession before COVID even happened, but as a result of COVID, we saw gradual levels of stimulus across the globe. So we've now grappled with delayed recession, pressure like last week. And then we're also grappling with feeling.
Allergic to recession.
Yes, exactly. So the recession will have to hit, and then it's a question of whether there's a major reset, a minor reset, or just a blip that we don't even notice, and that's gonna be the big question.
Well, the purpose of the rate hikes is to prevent the recession that's gonna come anyway.
No, it's to prevent the inflation that came from the stimulus spending and then also from the supply chain disruption. So with energy prices shooting up so much and so much money being spent as a result of the stimulus, the Fed, rightly or wrongly, fixated on inflation as the real issue that we needed to combat as, you know, our economic problems. So the rate hikes, they would be to combat inflation. Now, rate decreases would be to combat inflation, would be to combat recessions, I should say. So if you know, recessionary pressures seem more extensive or they're going to be deeper than what the Fed had projected, we could see a potential U-turn and rates coming down, because that way there's more spending, there's more economic activity, but they put themselves in a corner because they don't like spending, they don't like inflation. So again, the question will be whether the slowdown we have, whether it's going to be major, whether it's going to be temporary, or whether it's somewhere in the middle. And this will be, it's always an interesting time, right? It's never a boring time. I wish we had boring time, but it's going to be a very interesting time to see what we can do fiscally, because we've used all of the tools available. I don't know if this Fed would be the one that does the greediest thing, that bails us out, but again, a recession, they say a recession is coming at some point. Our question is whether the Fed is perhaps overshot with respect to raising interest rates, whether they just got it right, or if there's more pain to come with the interest rate hike. So amidst all this, the market is figuring out what to do, and it's clamping onto AI as the next thing. It was crypto last year, it's AI this year, so the market will continue to find things to hold on to and view positively to kind of ignore all of the macro trends happening. So
I think it's another answer to Carl's question, if they decided that inflation is bigger risk than an economic slowdown.
yes, absolutely, yes. So you can look at it in a couple of ways. It looks like the Fed's approach has been more friendly towards corporations and less friendly toward the little person, because the rate hikes are going to impact you know, us a lot more. The supply chain disruption has been a bigger cause of inflation. I would argue that, you know, us buying stock and inflating the price. So again, it's been an interesting path or route that the Fed has taken.
After that rosy picture we painted. I assume you haven't diverted from your theory last month that the valuation is still a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we actually see here, and I'll jump to this page, is page 21, US equities. I think this does a really good job. So if we look at the Russell 1000 data, the Russell 1000 growth, okay, understandably, financials are part of the value index, and yeah, financials are part of the value index, energy is part of the value index, but still, value year to date through the end of May was down 1.4%, and growth was up 20.8%. And this is in a rising range environment. It's not as attractive to have leverage. So this basically says fundamentals of, again, it's thrown out the window, and the types of stocks being rewarded aren't necessarily the best companies or the most efficiently run companies. These are the companies that are just appealing from a supply demand standpoint if you are in that business.
I that would be consistent with what we said about a bubble, but then I go back to what Chris said, and you agree about the rally being more broad based.
Absolutely.
How do you explain that? I can see a bubble, the AI bubble, we talk about the video, there's some other small growth areas, but how does it become more broad based?
So my quick take on that is, it's become more broad-based because we've seen fractures within the economy. The regional banking system is one example of that. If everyone's not taking notice, someone is taking notice that something is cracking within the economy. So when regional banks fail or go into receivership, that will make some investors suddenly look at fundamentals a little bit more. That will make some investors suddenly value, the stocks that have a boring model but good cash flow. I think part of that has led to a bit more deliberateness from some of the investors out there. There's a pretty good piece in the journal about a week or two ago that spoke about program trading really being responsible for many of stocks being bid up right now. And I would say that if it's not the computer and it's more of a human being looking at this from a fundamental standpoint, you're probably going to have more discernment around the financial statements, the projections, and so on. And that's what's led to more of a broader rally as opposed to the more concentrated dynamic we had earlier on in the year.
Because we'll talk about it more of the gas allocation, but it begs the question of passive versus active management. I think going forward, if there's certain pockets of value or fundamentals, the index doesn't guard that.
Yeah, there'll always be a chicken and the egg thing when it comes to active and passive. I think whenever there's any type of disruption, dislocation, or huge concentration in terms of the name driving up the performance of an index, we'll always go back and revisit the active versus passive dynamic in any type of portfolio. Over the longer term, we always expect these things to essentially normalize. But over the short term, it's a thoughtful exercise in risk management to say, okay, how much beta risk are we taking? Are we comfortable with that? Can we diversify that with some active management exposure? And going back to our portfolio, I would say that when we think about where we're taking active management risk, it is in the areas of the market that make a lot of sense. Small cap, private equity, real estate, private credit. So we'll always look at active management being the best source of alpha in those areas. And then I would say, as we think about US large cap as the poster child, US large cap, there'll always be arguments for and against passive. We still think it makes sense to have a good degree of passive exposure. I think knowing what the risks around passive are makes a lot of sense. And this wasn't any different from where we were in 2008, 2009, where many of the index providers started coming out with, instead of cap weighted, they would have different variations of the index. So that way, no one issuer could disproportionately drive any return to the portfolio. So again, active versus passive, I think we will continue to look at passive as a really good low cost vehicle. Over a market cycle, we'd expect the beta risk to wash out essentially, but over the short term, definitely some bumpiness, just given the fact that you're literally exposed to the market and you will fall with the market, you will rise with the market.
Very global rollout discussion.
Yes.
I know you anticipated that would be a little more steady, disruptive sort of market. One of the things Chris said yesterday, talked about global tolerance and markets, like referred to the market cycle. Chris and I talked about this a little afterwards. That would assume some sort of period of rules.
Yes.
You alluded to. Yeah, see them. When do you anticipate we will see like a full market cycle? We've had such extremes in the market.
Right.
When will we have seen a market cycle, which would include some sort of normal?
And you're really testing that question.
So it will be
Or,
June
you know, easier, how would you identify?
Yeah.
How would you identify a
Yeah.
normal market cycle, or that we are in a normal market cycle?
Yeah, I would say that, for a market cycle to get defined, you want to bookend like major events or major dynamics that characterize that market cycle. I would say the cycle that we're in now, whether it's the COVID or post-COVID cycle, no one's really figured it out. I would say that would conclude with Fed as well as central bank action across the globe. Right now, we're all really beholden to how these entities are controlling interest rates. And as we think about interest rates being the building block for any type of economy, if you're a real estate investor, if you're an individual at the retail level, interest rates, they influence absolutely everything that we do. So I would say that the start of a new market cycle would essentially be when the Fed or new chairperson gives clear direction on what the new policy is going to be. And then cycles will basically form around what that new policy is going to be. But right now, we're all beholden to the kind of COVID, post-COVID actions of the Fed, and that's the cycle
Say a
we're in
new
now.
policy, being like inflation's not everything we're gonna focus on.
Yeah, or declaring victory. We've gotten inflation to where we needed to be, and we're not gonna have an interest rate policy that's pegged to a certain rate of inflation. So that would be a complete regime change, or philosophical change from where we are right now. But
Strike that.
I'm sorry, I was just.
You want to strike that? You change it.
Philosophical change, so. All right, thank you.
Anything else? Then we're gonna go to agenda.
Also, we'll also mention in July, we'll have a market. The asset allocation. Like the moment of meeting. The security lending summary for May, $177,178. Income year to date. Little under $778,000. And 52.65 billion. Program started. NWDBE and local AUM. 57.37. Combined with local managers, standing alone 50.89 and 9.38. Philadelphia and Surrey. Then final tab, the next three meetings, July 26th, August 24th, and 28th.
There's a question, any new business, any old? Let's take your turn, and your turn, I'll let you call me. That's right, you have something?
That might be changed, I'm gonna get some of it. Don't go through that. The week of August 21st, because
Waiting. What's back? Yes.
Well, you can't do the last week in August, that, you don't wanna do that one?
If the board would, that's the Thursday before the weekend, I just want to make sure the board's aware.
Everybody go away then, you, after they go away, that's, you can go away.
2 days earlier,
Yeah, right.
or, you mean the 29th?
Yeah, I thought as people may take a long weekend.
Yeah.
Labor Day, if we could get away from that weekend, I would be beneficial.
That works for me.
You can do the 28th or the Thursday, I mean.
Virtual.
No, you can't do me virtual. I'm on vacation. So you can do the 29th and the 30th, that's the Tuesday or Wednesday. If people are people to that.
Okay with you? Any objections? Okay. Any other new business? The old business?
So everybody agree to change the.
Yep.
Thank you.
29. To call the board into session. Motion to approve the actions taken by investment committee.
I'll make that motion.
For a second. Second. Properly seconded. I'll call the roll. Nick. Aubrey. Marcia. Carol. Paul.
Approved.
Well, approved. Ryan. Paul. Approved. Carries. Is there any new business for the or the old business in this room? We probably said that we adjourned and we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Bye, Paul.
Bye, Elizabeth. Thank you.
You're welcome.